we've got Binance. So they have apparently listed more tokenized stocks on their platform. Microsoft, Apple, and MicroStrategy are all to be listed on Binance as tokenized stocks. This means that Binance users will now qualify for things like dividends from these, although they will not also be conveyed voting rights. And the tokens are expected to be denominated in the exchange's stablecoin, BUSD. Now, this isn't the first time that we have seen tokenized stocks on the platform. Recently, they also listed Tesla and Coinbase stocks. But this has been ruffling the feathers of regulators. Apparently, they haven't acquired the necessary licenses to begin marketing equities to the public. So there's some controversy around this. But I'll throw this to you, Ben. What are your thoughts on them expanding their empire of tokenized stocks?
I mean, this is sort of, if you see the two trajectories of like exchanges in some ways, there's like Binance and there's Coinbase in one sense. And Binance really seems to be more of the boat of like move fast and break things kind of vibe. And then maybe ask for apologies after the fact. I was struck with this one because, as you said, they're currently working with regulators. And as we discussed previously, to kind of explain what this is, there seems to be a lot of confusion from skeptical and cautious regulators when looking at these offerings. But I was just struck that Apple and Microsoft were on this one. That seemed to me to be a little bit of a departure from like the MicroStrategy, from the Tesla, from the Coinbase ones that are all sort of either crypto adjacent or who have direct holdings in Bitcoin in some ways. And so that was what I was a little bit, maybe not confused by, but I thought was the interesting tidbit here, because I'm also curious at this point what Apple and what Microsoft are going to be thinking about if they see this and what they might be pulling strings on behind the scenes.
Yeah, it is super interesting. And, it just also speaks to the regulatory climate around the world, seeing how different jurisdictions have reacted to this. So obviously the SEC has chimed in. They're just like, securities, stop. You can't do this. You have Hong Kong that's also been like, oh, this isn't compliant. But meanwhile, Singapore is like opening up trading to this. They're loosening regulations. They want this money to be moving around and people to be able to have access to this. So we'll see whether that helps Singapore and hurts the others, or whether the US and Hong Kong are correct in their caution and whether they're protecting people. Obviously, we know where I stand. I obviously want people to have access to whatever they want to have access to, and I don't believe the government should be making our decisions for us. But, time will tell and see if Singapore benefits from this. But Will, I see you nodding there. What are your thoughts on all this?
Yeah, I think this is a huge win for a lot of the decentralized finance products that we see kind of springing up over the last year, or just like decentralized contract platforms in general. So like your Ethereums of the world. When you have the ability to invest in a capital structure from anywhere in the world just on your smartphone, that's a win for the use case that a product like Ethereum has. So that's like tokenization. The idea that like you can kind of package value on a blockchain in any sort of way if you have agreed upon standards and an agreed upon system of like tracking that information. And so you might see like FTX and Binance and a lot of these other exchanges start popping up these tokens. And yes, they're like centrally managed by the exchange for now, but these projects do link back to earlier attempts at tokenizing stocks that more or less failed in the earlier days. Ostensibly just because regulation and there wasn't just like the consumer wasn't there yet. But if you see more of these exchanges kind of get into this tokenized security trading, I don't see why it doesn't move the next step forward or next step onto Ethereum or onto some sort of DeFi exchange where I can trade a Tesla stock seamlessly and no one's really on the back end except for perhaps a custody provider in a jurisdiction that's willing to play around with this. So there's a lot more to be had and like more to be said about this topic. But yeah, I think it's a positive step forward as well. So I give it back to you, Naeem.
Yeah, so I think that it's really interesting seeing this, big flurry in trading and individuals and regular people getting involved with trading, whether it's through Robinhood or whether it's Binance, making these things accessible. Like it really does seem like everyday people are becoming traders. And I'm of two minds about this because on the one hand, I think it's great that people are starting to have more access to this. But on the other, I can't help but think that people's hands are being forced. They're being forced to play at day traders in order to preserve their wealth because their money is just losing so much value. So this is like a skill set that more everyday people are starting to pick up to safeguard their savings. But Jen, I'll throw this over to you.
Well, just on the topic of this being a product that makes investing more accessible to your everyday consumer, I haven't gone into Binance and really taken a look at how this is working, but it seems like it might be complicated for someone who's just getting into trading. Like it feels like this, while it's a step in the right direction, is it easy to get involved in? I don't know. Has anyone on this panel taken a look at what it entails?
Will, I'll throw it to you.
You can go to Amy.
Oh, well, yeah, I've taken a look. It's it is super easy. I mean, it's the same as trading cryptocurrency. So if you've ever exchanged Bitcoin for Ether or anything else, it's basically the same. There's just a tab in Binance. You click on it, you get all of the stock options listed there, and it works like any other trading on the platform. So I don't think that it's going to be a departure for people to start to get involved with this. But Will, maybe you have another take.
No, I think it's the same thing. Like if you are opening a brokerage account with like Schwab or some other like giant firm in the US and you want to get access to the stock market, it takes a few days. And that's why Robinhood was so revolutionary, because it's like, oh, I can onboard and buy a stock in half a day. Like that's incredible. And now you have Binance, like next level. I'm able to get onboarded quite quickly. And it used to be even easier before I'm not sure which alphabet soup regulator came in and shut them down, but they used to be like very easy to get onboarded in the US.
And I just wanted to wrap that up, Will, mention when you say it takes people a long time to onboard in traditional finance, absolutely. You want to start an interactive broker's account, it's going to be like a week to verify you. But to start off with, there's the barrier to entry that you have to have a hell of a lot of money in order to get involved. You have to prove you're an accredited investor. You have to show your earnings and your savings and your assets and how liquid it all is. So it's like, it's just not accessible. So things like Robinhood and Binance, they're really opening the gateways to ordinary people.